It is a troubling phenomenon. Nearly every time it rains, communities underwater across Cook County.
That means thousands of dollars in damages and potential health risks for many low-income neighborhoods. As part of ABC 7's Weathering Tomorrow series, we're assessing those flood risks that will only continue to grow.
ABC 7's Mark Rivera explains why the vast majority of communities are unprotected.
Some people enjoy the sound of rain on your roof. For me, it's an anxious experience.
From the southern suburbs.
She called with a scream, saying the basement is flooding.
To the west side. When it rains, rising waters pour into the homes of many. Pastor Cy Fields was with his congregation this past July when his wife called.
It was uncontrollable, and it was sewer water, it was dirty water.
Many Chicago homes are at risk. An ABC 7 analysis of data from the First Street Foundation found more than 200,000 Cook County properties are at major or severe risk of flooding in the next 30 years. And a lot of those properties nowhere near a river, lake, or designated flood zone.
We're getting lots of intense rain in short periods of time. And that just means that a lot of the drainage systems in cities, especially with old sort of infrastructure, can't handle that amount of runoff in that quick of a time.
Syracuse University professor Sarah Prail is describing pluvial or surface flooding caused by overwhelmed and aging sewage systems, not built to handle the amount of rain falling these days.
That water has nowhere to go. It can't get absorbed by the ground. And so what homeowners are finding is their basements are backing up.
Here you could see this is all this water streaks.
Retired Blue Island teacher Mary Carvlin fights pluvial flooding into her basement every time there's a significant downpour. And every year, she says it's getting worse. She's even marked the water levels on her wall with a date, a traumatic reminder.
It's a horror show. It is absolute horror, and that's not the only time that's happened.
While thousands of homes in Cook County are at risk of flooding, the vast majority, 94%, are uninsured.
I've salvaged this thing twice now.
For some, that's a choice, like Carvlin, who says it's too expensive.
I just sat down and did the numbers, and it didn't seem as if the flood insurance was going to help me on that.
For some people, it is a heavy financial burden. However, the solution, I think, to this is not to forego flood insurance, but is to find ways to make it affordable for those who cannot afford it.
After July's storm, Governor Pritzker issued a major disaster declaration unlocking federal FEMA dollars for flooding victims like Carvlin and Fields, whose basements flooded. Both Carvlin and Fields were granted assistance, but FEMA's money, they say, was a drop in the bucket. Not a surprise to researchers.
If there is a federally declared disaster, you might get some chance as a homeowner of getting a little bit of help from the federal government in disaster assistance. However, it's very small, and those who are insured are able to get quite a bit back and get back on their feet much more quickly than the people who don't carry flood insurance.
About a foot or so.
For Pastor Fields, he also had insurance, and that money vastly outweighed what FEMA gave him.
We're doing the best that we can. Even with insurance, we realize it's going to come up short.
Fields worries for his congregation and those in the community now and in the future, many who may not have the means for protection.
I really think that when it comes to the government, local politicians, and even insurance companies, to really have compassion for those who are most vulnerable amongst us.
Now, in addition to the private insurance policies for sewage backup flooding, there's also the federally backed National Flood Insurance Program, which FEMA tells us Cook County residents are eligible for. This year, the program unveiled a new pricing method advertised as delivering more equitable rates for communities at risk. To learn more about that and to find out if your neighborhood is at risk of flooding, log on to our website, abc7chicago.com.
Watch breaking news on YouTube. Subscribe to ABC 7 Chicago Eyewitness News.